everybody. I am going to share with you my foolproof recipe for salt dough. We use this recipe all the time in the classroom, and I thought that our study of land and water forms gave us the perfect opportunity to try this at home. So the recipe, I will put up a picture of that recipe for you. It is very simple. It is 1 part salt, 1 part water, and 2 parts flour. So you can make a little bit of salt dough or a lot of salt dough depending on your project. I'm going to go ahead and use a 1 cup measuring cup as my measurement. So that means I'm going to use 1 cup of salt, 1 cup of water, and 2 cups of flour. But if I wanted to make a smaller amount, I could just change the size of my measuring vessel. So if you wanted to make half this amount, it's easy. You just take half a cup of salt, half a cup of water, half a cup of flour. And then if you want to make more, you just multiply the number of cups that you use. So I'm going to, it doesn't really, this is the easiest thing in the world. I'm just going to measure out my salt real quick. And of course, you want to ask mom and dad, before you start making salt dough, not only is it messy, and I'm not being super careful about my measurements here, but that's roughly a cup. Not only is it messy, but it is also going to use up a lot of the flour and salt in your house. And lately, it's been challenging to get enough flour and salt at the store. So make sure you ask so that you don't use the last of the flour and then the family can't get enough to cook with. Okay, so I need 2 cups of flour. So there's 1. I'm already making a mess. Okay, there's 2. So I'm not being as careful, like I said, with my measuring on this. It's going to work no matter if I spilled a little bit or a little too much. Okay, and now I'm going to add in the water. And you know, the amount that I add at first, I might add about 3/4 of the cup of water and then start mixing. Your hands are your best tool here, but it's going to get real messy real fast. Those of you that have done this in the classroom, you know. But I'm just going to start getting it mixed together. And I like to start it before adding the rest of the water, just so I can kind of get a sense of how much more water I'm actually going to need. Sometimes I need a little more than the cup of water, and sometimes it doesn't take that much. So I'm getting a kind of, in bread making, we call this a craggy mess. It's sort of shredded looking, but it definitely needs more water. It is not coming together into a dough yet. I'm going to go ahead and add the remainder of that cup of water. But from this point on, I want to add water in small increments, because if you add too much water, then you have to go back and add more flour, and you can kind of get yourself into a back and forth situation. Okay, so now I'm starting to get, it's starting to come together into a dough. So I don't want to add any more water at this point. I just want to start kneading it together and getting all the dry bits picked up from the bottom of my bowl. This is, we're not quite there yet. I need to get it to pull together a little bit better than this before we talk about adding color. The kneading is the secret here. It is what brings it all together, and it is also what allows the flour and the salt to get fully hydrated, to pick up the water, and to come together into, ooh, now I've got a solid ball here. That's great. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so once you get to that stage, it's time to take it out of the bowl. Now this, I'm not in my kitchen right now. But this can be done on a kitchen counter. I wouldn't do it on a wood table, which is why I have this placement here. I would do it on a Formica countertop, a granite countertop, marble countertop is all fine, but don't do it on your nice wood table. So now I'm just kneading, just like kneading dough. You press and fold, and press and fold. And this, what you are feeling for now is for the magic to happen, where it goes from feeling like a gritty mess to feeling smooth like Play-Doh. And it is the kneading that gets us there. So resist the temptation to add more water if it's feeling a little dry to the touch, because by kneading it a little bit more, you're going to get a nice homogeneous, meaning it all feels the same consistency. You don't have gritty spots, and smooth and very elastic dough. Okay, now this is also a good time to talk about how this looks like something you could eat. It is not. I've often wondered whether the salt is actually a necessary element of this or whether it is just there to keep kids from trying to taste this. But this is something I remember doing when I was in elementary school. We made a lot of projects out of salt dough. We made ornaments for the Christmas tree out of salt dough. This is a great recipe you can use for things that you want to keep for a long time because it will dry hard. You can keep it forever. But we're going to use it today to demonstrate our land and water forms. I feel like we're almost there. It takes longer than you think. But since this isn't turning into bread, there's no harm in kneading it a little longer either, because it's not going to hurt anything. Okay, if it's feeling sticky, mine is just the tiniest bit sticky. After all that kneading, it should feel smooth and elastic. Mine is still feeling quite sticky. I think it's because it's a little bit humid in my house today. So I'm going to sprinkle a little extra flour. That was maybe like a couple extra tablespoons. And I'm just gonna knead it into the dough and see if I can get it to feeling more smooth. But again, I would knead it for a while before you decide that you need to add anything to it. Okay, well that is plenty of flour, so I'm kind of added a little more than I intended to there. And I can tell that it's helping because it's definitely getting smoother. It's also getting a little more difficult to knead. Okay, so this is the point at which you could add food coloring here. I have seen recipes where you add Kool-Aid to create the color. I've not tried that. That sounds like it would be very sticky to me. But if you want to do that, you can. I would suggest going online and looking for a recipe for Kool-Aid dough. Personally, in the classroom, we don't tend to add food coloring to our dough. We prefer to create our structure first and then paint it, which is what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to pop it back in the bowl to sit for a minute. If I need to leave this for any extended period of time, I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag or cover it with plastic. But I'm just going to leave it long enough to clean this up, and I'll be right back with you to talk about what we're going to make out of this. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back and we are ready to make some landforms out of this salt dough that we have made. So I have pre-cut some pieces of cardboard that I'm going to use for the bases of my different landforms. And I've brought, along with my salt dough that we made, I grabbed some chopsticks out of the drawer. I grabbed some toothpicks and a fork and a knife, just in case I needed some help. I don't have a set of clay tools handy, so I grabbed those things thinking that they might help me to create my landforms. So the first landform I think I'd like to create is a cliff. So I'm going to take a chunk of my dough, and I want to think about how I want to arrange my cliff here. I think I'm going to make an oceanside cliff. So I'm imagining with my paint, I'm going to show the water, and that'll be at the obviously the bottom, the base of this cardboard. So let me go ahead and start to assemble my cliff. Now I could start thinking about a particular cliff. For example, if I want to make this look like the White Cliffs of Dover, I can do that when I get ready to paint. But I want to be thinking about the characteristics of a cliff and how I can create that with my dough. So I'm going to focus on a very steep drop off, right? Because a cliff, one of the features of a cliff is that it's a very steep drop off into the ocean. I think I'd kind of like to angle my coastline out just a little bit. Ooh, that kind of looks like Niagara Falls. And that the top of this land mass is going to be quite high. So I'm going to continue building on the back here just to kind of indicate that this is ongoing. Now, what you could do is take a bigger piece of cardboard, and instead of making one landform on each little piece like I'm doing, you could take a big piece and create many, many land and water forms on one, all on one big map. That would look cool too. Okay, so it's going to take some trial and error for me to get it quite how I want it. One thing to remember with salt dough that is a little different than the air dry clay is that you really can't add pieces later, because once this starts to dry, it is going to, it's not going to accept you adding pieces to it. So that is one of the reasons I kind of chose to make individual landforms, because I was afraid if I tried to make a big one that pieces of it would dry before I got to totally feel finished. Okay, and then what else could I do to indicate that this is a cliff? I think I wish my land was a bit higher. I'm just going to press it up a little bit here. And then I wonder if I were to take a toothpick and sort of drag my toothpick, maybe I could make some of that craggy, rocky outcroppings. Ooh, you know what else I could do? I could kind of pinch. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay, I could kind of pinch some places together. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm gonna sort of give the effect of rocks. Oh, you know what else would be cool is if I had a big rock. Have you ever seen the California coastline? How sometimes you have like a big rock that looks like something that maybe fell years ago from the cliffside, and it's sort of sitting out there in the water. You can add one of those too. Keep it looking rocky. Okay, so I'm going to keep kind of scratching here and making it look kind of, giving it some texture. Okay. What do you think of my cliff? Not bad. Okay. And so what I'm going to have to do is let this dry all the way completely. And it's quite thick, So it is going to take at least a day, 24 hours, maybe 2 days for this to be completely dry. So we'll have to come back in a couple of days and see if we can paint it. Okay, so that's my salt dough recipe, and that's one way to use your salt dough to help in your study of land and water forms. Okay, I will try and add a picture when it's dry and painted for you. Okay, bye-bye.